Good afternoon. Prime Minister Justin Trudeau making a housing announcement in Edmonton, answering questions from reporters. Let's listen in.
Avec le zonage, avec la densification, avec les processus bureaucratiques qui peuvent être allégés et accélérés. Ça, c'est des ententes qu'on fait avec les villes. Pour la province, on sera toujours là.
For the province, we will always be there to work with them. But we also expect that the province do its part. For example, and this is changing the topic a bit, but an example where the province isn't doing its job is when it comes to early childhood care centers and daycares. The federal government has sent hundreds of millions of dollars to the province of Alberta that the government is not passing on to daycare services or passing it on to citizens and families who need it. We're seeing a daycare system developing across the country, and it's having a hard time here in Alberta because the Alberta government is refusing to invest the money it has received from the federal government for daycare centers and early childhood care. We are there to partner with them, but we need to see concrete results. And if we invest in Alberta, then we expect the Albertan government to do its part. Question? You've been asked for additional funding by the Minister of Finance. What is your direct response? We are open to examining all requests and any requests they have for funding, and we are here to work with them as a partner.
Travis McEwen, CBC News, Edmonton. A bit of a topic change here, but why do you think the online harms bill is necessary, and why can't people be allowed to say what they want online?
First of all, we know, and everyone can agree, that kids are vulnerable online to hatred, to violence, to being bullied, to seeing and being affected by terrible things online. We need to do a better job as a society of protecting our kids online the way we protect them in schoolyards, in our communities, in our homes across the country. We need to make sure, and I think we can all agree, we need to protect our kids online. Now, how to go about do that is a very careful balance. We need to make sure we're protecting freedom of expression. We need to make sure we're protecting the freedoms and the rights of Canadians while we protect kids. That's why we've spent years working with different community groups, with advocates, with minority communities, with experts, with people in all sorts of different backgrounds to make sure that what we're doing is actually protecting kids. And I look forward to putting forward that online harms bill, which people will see is very, very specifically focused on protecting kids and not on censoring the internet as misinformation and as the right wing tends to try and characterize it as. I think everyone, wherever they are on the political spectrum, can agree that protecting kids is something governments should be focused on doing.
The Conservative leader says your bill on hate is about banning speech you hate, and he also called you someone with a woke authoritarian agenda who spent the first half of his adult life as a practicing racist. What's your response to that?
My response to the substantive part of that question is Mr. Poilievre hasn't even seen the legislation we're about to put forward next week. He's already telling people exactly what it is and what it isn't. I think responsible leadership is about dealing in facts, actually reading a piece of legislation before he starts telling people what he thinks it does, and then having a rigorous debate in Parliament about how to best protect kids. He's not interested in that. He's interested in hurling insults, in distracting from the fact that he has no plan on housing. He has no plan on childcare. He has no plan on fighting climate change and creating good jobs for the future. He has no plan in terms of building and protecting the kinds of jobs here in Alberta or across the country that people are going to rely on in a transforming world. What does he have a plan for? He has a plan for stoking division, creating fear, throwing out personal insults. That's not leadership. Canadians deserve a government that is focused every day on building a better future for them. That's what I'm doing here today. He can throw whatever insults he likes. I look forward to having substantive debates on how we're going to fix the challenges Canadians are facing, because we're busy doing that while he's busy ranting.
In French, boss.
Sorry?
En français.
La deuxième partie en
La
français?
première partie en français.
The second part in French, please.
Sur Poilievre, sur quelle partie? Sur Poilievre.
Sorry, on which part? Listen.
On peut tous s'entendre qu'il faut protéger
We can all
nos
agree
enfants.
that we need to
On les
protect our
protège dans la
children.
cour d'école, on les protège
We protect them in the
dans
schoolyard.
dans nos institutions, on les
We're
protège dans
protecting
nos
them in our
communautés.
institutions and in our
On doit aussi les
communities.
protéger en ligne.
We also need to protect them
Et pour ce
online.
faire, on a travaillé pendant des années avec des
To
experts,
do that, we've been
avec
working
des
for
groupes
years with
communautaires,
experts
avec des
and community
enseignants, avec
groups, with
des
teachers,
familles, des
with
parents,
families and parents.
pour pouvoir mieux protéger
And we've been
nos enfants
working
en
to
ligne.
better
On va
protect our
présenter la
children
semaine prochaine ou
online.
dans quelques
Next
semaines,
week
un projet
or
de
in a
loi
few weeks, we will be
sur,
presenting a
sur la
bill
protection des enfants en
on
ligne.
protecting children online.
C'est quelque chose sur lequel on devrait tous être
This
d'accord.
is something
Monsieur
that we should
Poilievre,
all agree
sans
on.
avoir lu le projet de loi,
Without
sans
having
savoir
read
qu'est-ce qui est
this
dedans,
bill or
a
knowing what is in
choisi
it, Mr.
d'essayer
Poilievre
de
has
définir
chosen
déjà
to try
ce que
and
c'est en train de
already
faire, ce que c'est pas en
predetermine
train de faire,
what
et
it's doing or
d'attaquer
not
sur
doing
la base d'idéologie.
and
plutôt que de
attack
façon
based on
concrète.
ideology rather than
C'est pas responsable
concretely.
comme leadership,
It's
c'est pas
not
responsable
responsible
comme
leadership.
parlementaire.
It's not being a
On a un
responsible
système où
parliamentarian.
on va avoir l'occasion d'avoir bien
We
des
have a
débats à la
system
Chambre des communes sur
where we will be
ne-
able to have
ce qu'on
plenty of debate
propose
in the
et comment
House
on
on
peut
what
mieux
we are
protéger les
proposing
enfants.
and how
Mais
we
la
can better
réalité, c'est que
protect
lui, ça ne lui
children.
intéresse pas d'avoir un débat rigoureux
In reality,
là-dessus.
he is not
Ça
interested in rigorous
l'intéresse
debate
de
on this
lancer
issue.
des insultes, des
He'd
attaques,
rather throw
attaques
out
personnelles
insults and personal
pour
attacks.
distraire du fait qu'il n'a pas de solution.
He does so to try and distract from the fact that he doesn't have a solution for housing or to fight climate change or to help families with more
Pour
daycare
investir
spaces,
dans les projets et
to
les emplois
reinvest
que
in projects
l'économie
and
mondiale est
jobs
en train de nous offrir dans les
that
années
the
à
global
venir. Il y a aucun
economy
plan
is
pour l'avenir,
offering us
donc
in the
il
years to
choisit de
come. He
distraire.
has no
Et
plan
c'est
for
pas
that,
ça
so
le
he
leadership dont
chooses
les
to
Canadiens ont
distract.
besoin.
And that's not the leadership that Canadians
Next
need.
question.
Prime Minister, when it comes to the housing and rental crisis in this country, we hear a lot of it has to do with the number of new Canadians coming into Canada. What conversations is your government having on that regard?
That's a really great question. And one of the great strengths of Canada is that we are open to immigration from around the world. It strengthens our communities, it grows our economy, and we do a better job of bringing people in and integrating them and having them become successful than just about any other country in the world. And that's something that we have to protect and keep. Over the past years, we've had a more or less steady number of permanent residents accepted every year, about 460 this year. We're moving up to 500,000 in the coming years. But that's the number that is easily absorbed and right to keep our economy growing, to keep our workforce full, and to keep things moving forward. The challenge we faced over the past years, particularly since the pandemic, has been a tremendous spike in temporary immigration, whether it's visitors or more specifically temporary foreign workers and international students, along with an increase in asylum seekers. These are issues that have led to about 2 million more people in this country than were planned with our immigration levels. And that's why we've taken concrete measures on international students to steady those numbers, to make sure that they're getting good quality of education and not overwhelming our communities or driving up rents. We're moving forward on strengthening the measures around temporary foreign workers to make sure that they really are coming in areas where Canadians aren't able or aren't willing to do the work. But not just displacing Canadians from jobs because of lower wages. We're going to continue to make sure that we're reducing the number of irregular arrivals by working with countries like Mexico and others to reduce the number of ultimately unsuccessful asylum seekers who are coming for economic reasons. There's lots of things we're doing because we will continue to protect the fact that Canada benefits from immigration, and Canadians understand that deeply.
My next question is for Mayor Sohi. Mayor, it's unrelated, I apologize, but your reaction to the stabbing death of the security guard in downtown Edmonton early this morning and some of the security concerns that Edmontonians are feeling right now?
Yeah, you know, it is very tragic whenever we have violence incidents that take the lives of loved ones away from family and everything else, that the impact of that. No, we are grappling with very serious increase in violence in our city, whether it's related to guns, whether it's related to some of these social disorders that we are seeing in our communities. We are funding our police service very appropriately. We increased the funding last year significantly. We are creating other opportunities as well for people to connect to services and programs. But this is an ongoing concern that requires collaboration and cooperation of everyone, and that's why conversations like this are very important for us to build the structure, the social infrastructure, and that has been lacking in many ways, right? So we will continue to support whichever we can Edmontonians struggling with many challenges and facing high level of violence in our city.
Thank you. Next question.
Sorry, Mayor, we're going to go back to the Prime Minister for this one. It's Jeremy Thompson with CTV Edmonton. Prime Minister, we're talking about housing. I'm not sure how aware you are of sort of the issue that Edmonton has with new builds as far as there's an extortion and arson issue going on. And about a week ago, the mayor and police met with, I suppose, the South Asian community, just talking about possible solutions. I'm wondering how much you're aware of this and what sort of interventions the federal government might be able to do.
We're seeing a rise in extortion and related implicated crimes across the country in places like Brampton, Edmonton, the Lower Mainland and BC that is extremely concerning. The RCMP has just launched a coordination task force with local police jurisdiction to get at this. There are international implications as well around these cases that we're following up on very closely. Our national security agencies, our police agencies, and the Minister of Public Safety, among others, are deeply engaged in this. No one should feel unsafe in Canada, and we know specific communities, the South Asian community specifically, is being targeted on this, and we're going to continue to do everything necessary to keep people safe here in Canada.
And just to a provincial issue here, you commented a while ago about sort of the new trans policies the provincial government has brought in. Not very happy about them, but wondering if you have any sort of specific issues and whether there are any sort of interventions, again, on that front that the federal government might be able to do, maybe in the vein of health transfers, that kind of stuff.
I think everyone well knows my stance on standing up for minorities and being there for the LGBT community. The question I think people should be asking is, why has the right suddenly decided to attack the LGBT community? Danielle Smith just brought forward some of the most difficult policies against vulnerable youth that the country has ever seen. And I heard Mr. Poilievre went off against the LGBT community again this morning. And one might wonder why this is the theme that right-wing politicians are trying to stir up as much as possible. For me, it's fairly obvious that they don't want to be talking about housing. They don't want to be talking about bringing in more competition in the grocery sector as we are as a government. They don't want to be talking about how Alberta continues to sit on hundreds of millions of dollars that the federal government has sent Alberta for childcare, while childcare providers are having to do rolling strikes and not able to deliver the childcare that parents are counting on. That's a decision, an ideological decision by the government of Alberta to not honor the billions of dollars worth of childcare agreements that we signed with the previous Alberta government a few years ago. These are initiatives that are saving thousands of dollars a month for Alberta families that the government doesn't want to talk about, doesn't want to address. They're picking wedge issues designed to suscitate anger and frustration and alarm on either sides of issues, because that's what they want us talking about. Well, I'm here today to invest in housing because that's going to make the lives of Albertans better. I'm going to continue to fight for more competition in the grocery sector so that grocery prices can come down. We're going to be there to deliver dental care for seniors even though the Conservatives in Ottawa voted against it. We're going to be there to support kids with childcare, to support them with a Canada Child Benefit. We're going to be there to continue to fight climate change in a way that puts more money in people's pockets every single year. $1,800 is the family of four in Alberta receiving with the Canada Carbon Rebate. $2,100 if you're in a rural area, which is most of Alberta. This is more money than the carbon price actually costs that average family for 8 out of 10 families across the country in backstop provinces. These are the things that we are focusing on, the things we are fighting for every day. So let far-right politicians pick fights with trans kids. Shame on them. And of course, as a government, we're going to be there to protect our most vulnerable. But let's not allow them to successfully deflect from the fact that they have no plans to deal with the real issues facing Canadians right now.
En français, plus court, s'il vous plaît.
Okay, let's go back to Edmonton now. Prime Minister Justin Trudeau speaking on a number of topics with reporters, so let's listen in.
They're quick with slogans and buzzwords and culture wars, but they're not doing the work of actually rolling up their sleeves and delivering. 330 housing units here, delivered next year, this summer, including over 60% of them 60% of them affordable. Billions of dollars in investment in childcare that provinces like Alberta are not delivering properly to Albertan families because of ideology. We're stepping up on the fight against climate change to draw in global investment. Here in Alberta, for years, I've been pointing out that Alberta is the #1 place in the country for green investments, for investments into renewables, for innovation in the future of how we're going to power our country and our world in a net zero economy. And what does the Alberta government do? Oh, it puts a pause on renewables. I was talking to the Alberta Business Council just last fall, who were up in arms about it, rightly, because what kind of signal does that send to investors? What kind of signal does that send to Albertans who know that providing energy in a net zero world will provide incredible jobs for Albertans? If you work in construction, if you work in the oil sector, you can also work in the hydrogen sector. You can work in the nuclear sector. You can work in the carbon capture, utilization, and storage. These are good, skilled jobs that Albertans are already doing that they will be able to do as long as we make sure the capital is flowing in those areas. But these are all real issues with real solutions that we're working on. And people like Pierre Poilievre would rather pick a fight with trans kids. That's not leadership. And that's not a game I'm going to play with them. Yes, we're going to make sure we're doing everything we can to protect vulnerable people in this country, because that's what Canadians expect. But I'm not going to get dragged into culture wars about this, when the fact is Canadians expect their governments to roll up their sleeves and deliver for them, and that's what we're doing.
I'll ask it again, sir. What can or what is your government doing to protect the rights of trans kids now and in the future?
I was sitting down with a number of doctors from the Canadian Medical Association. I think one of the things we should all do in difficult issues is rely on experts, rely on science, on researchers, on people who actually work with vulnerable kids, people who sit down with families to talk through extremely difficult decisions, and rely on them to depoliticize issues and look at what is in the best interest of Canadians, of communities, of individuals. Relying on our service and health professionals to make decisions about how to best protect people is, I think, something that this government...
As Prime Minister speaking to reporters in Edmonton about numerous topics there.